Hello and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Today we are going to expand our SSTO mission, and to do that we are launching the refuel vessel to Duna. It will contain the fuel for our SSTO craft and the landing module, which we'll be able to use to land on Duna and then return to orbit to return home. So, let's launch.
Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition.
And we're off. Everything is in order. Unlike the first launch, which is not in this video, but suffice to say that the craft was wobbling, and not a little bit, but a lot. Like, really a lot. And unfortunately it's also a night launch, so I'll have to change the video a little bit to make sure that it's possible to see and it's not just a black screen you're staring at, because black screens are no fun. And while we are launching in the orbit, I would like to talk a little bit about things and stuff I've seen lately on the internet and just in general. One thing I've really found interesting was a channel by a guy named Harv from England, and he's doing very interesting KSP missions. In addition to that, he's recently started the series of scientific videos, which I found very insightful and helpful in learning both Kerbal Space Program and in general the spaceflight and everything tied to it. The link to the channel will appear on the screen right about now. You can check it out. I definitely recommend you to do so. If you haven't seen this channel, you should definitely check it out. One more thing is I've been reading lots of Wikipedia recently. And yes, I know Wikipedia is not a reliable source of scientific data. But if you check Wikipedia mostly for the information like biographies and such, you can find very insightful data there. For example, you can read a biography of Wernher von Braun, or the father of modern rocketry, the man who sent Apollo 11 to the moon, basically. It was his rocket and his design which was used by USA in 1969 to get Neil Armstrong to say his favorite words. So, very controversial figure. In addition to being a brilliant scientist, he also happened to live in Germany during the Second World War. And as we all know, Germany during this time wasn't particularly good state, so to say. And a big number of controversies are tied with the rocket program of Germany at that time. For example, it is still unknown if von Braun joined NSDAP or Nazi Party of Germany on his own accord, or if he done it specifically to promote his career and reach goals in spaceflight. Later, during his career, von Braun was also a member of Allgemeine SS, and although he claimed that he was basically forced to join, it is kind of controversial fact, and we can't say for sure if he really was forced or if he actually supported the Nazi ideology in any way. But regardless of all these controversies, it is absolutely sure that von Braun was one of the brightest scientists in the 20th century or before. Without his work, most of the American space program will not exist, and who knows if we would have been able to go to moon or do other things which we've done. He also wrote a lot of different books on topics of spaceflight, including the project for mission to Mars. Mission which is still viable and plan which still is being considered, as I understood from the text, by different space agencies. Of course, his work wasn't complete, because by the time when he was writing it, a lot of things about the universe were not known and he couldn't have accounted for them. For example, Van Allen radiation belt around the Earth wasn't discovered, and nobody had an idea that space is actually full of harmful radiation rays. But if we don't account for things he couldn't have accounted, his work was really, really good. And continuing on the topic of spaceflight, as probably everybody knows, Mars 1 is actually going to send people to the Red Planet in not so near future. Of course, it will only happen if they are able to procure finances and build the technology which is required, but so far, in my opinion, it looks very promising. If you have any comments on either von Braun or Mars 1, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I'll answer them in the next video. It would be really interesting to read your ideas or thoughts on both von Braun and idea of colonization of Mars in such drastic manner as Mars 1 is proposing. If you don't know what the Mars 1 is, it's basically the idea that instead of sending mission to Mars and back again, we can send permanent settlement on the first go. The reason for that is because permanent settlement is much cheaper and it's theoretically viable with our current technology level, without much of expenses, which are usually the biggest problem in any kind of space program. Of course, going on a one-way trip to Red Planet requires kind of special kind of man or woman, and that is why the astronauts are being selected from volunteers from around the globe, and all applications will be thoroughly vetted and everybody will be checked for various health and I guess psychological issues, so that they are not going to kill each other while in transit or maybe already there, and we not end up with this weird version of Space Odyssey where one of astronauts is acting as HAL 9000. In my opinion, if they manage to procure proper financing, they should be able to achieve their goal. and it would be very interesting to watch the first landing on Mars. And I'm actually wondering what the first human on the red planet might say. They would definitely have a hard time beating Neil Armstrong words. And it is that time where I have to say thank you all for watching. Remember to like, dislike and comment this video in the section below. My name is Darlock, and I will see you in the next episode, where we will launch our SSTO craft and go to Duna with it. Until then, goodbye.